Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Hampton. As Vicki said, I'm the manager of collections and special projects here at the Science Center, and I would like to welcome you to this very special presentation, Creepy Collections, presenting weird wonders from the Science Center collections. So, some of you, I think, may have come on a tour with me in the collection storage area before. Yeah, I thought I recognized some of you. And some of you may have even been on the Creepy Collections tour we did a couple years ago. Anybody? Oh, come on, guys. It's okay. You get this opportunity. All right. So this time we've brought the creepy to you here in the main building instead of over in collections. And hopefully you will find this very exciting. And we're very glad that more of you can participate. So, the Science Center Collections has over 100,000 artifacts and specimens. And as you can probably imagine, there are some strange, creepy, and downright unnerving objects in the collections. So, this tour is going to highlight some of those wondrously weird objects. But how do you choose what to show out of 100,000 objects? So, what you or I may consider creepy may not be what somebody else does. But creepy subjective. I tried to choose what I thought was looked creepy or maybe had a disturbing story that goes along with it. So, as this is the first time that we've ever done this format for one of our collections tours, here's what you can expect tonight. We present the artifacts here on stage, but we know some of them will be a little difficult to see. I mean, some of them are small. However, to help with that, my lovely assistant Kirsten will be using the camera to give you some closer views. And then my other not so lovely assistant, Dave, just kidding. We'll put some of the smaller objects under our micro eye so you can get a really close detailed views. So make sure to pay attention to your screens, okay? At the end of the presentation, we'll have time for Q&A, and then we'll bring all the objects up along in front of the stage. So afterward, if you would like to come up to the front and get a closer look, you can. All right, we're ready. So let's start this off with one of the most common things people are afraid of, creepy crawlies. First up, this little guy is called the rhinoceros beetle, named for the horn-like projections on his head, and only the males have those. Dave has a close-up view of one for us to take a look at. There are over 1,500 different known species worldwide. In the US, they are found from Nebraska down to Arizona and eastward. They can grow up to 6 inches long, making them some of the largest beetles in the world. Now let's see some examples that we have on the table. Another common name for these beetles is also the Hercules beetle because they have some serious strength. Adults can lift objects up to 850 times their weight. So that would be like a human lifting 9 adult elephants or 20 mid-sized cars. Anybody think they can do that? No? Maybe? Oh, cool. Okay. I could use your help in collections. So they are some of the most sought after beetles collected as pets in Asia and the US. But in some Asian countries like Japan, they're actually collected for sport. Owners will pit 2 beetles against each other and bet on which one will knock the other off a log. Yay, that guy won. All right, so even though they can fly short distances, these insects are harmless, which is really a good thing because who would want to have to dodge one flying through the air, right? All right, so who here likes spiders? Oh, really? Okay, what about tarantulas? Yeah, okay. As of August 2022, there are over 1,040 different species worldwide. And the one Kirsten is showing us is the only one found here in Missouri. This is the Missouri tarantula, also known as the Texas brown tarantula, one of those large, hairy spiders that are the stuff of nightmares or bad horror movies. Tarantulas can range in size from about as small as a BB pellet to as large as a dinner plate when their legs are fully extended. The Missouri tarantula can get up to 4 inches in leg span. So what Dave is going to show us is the tarantula's exoskeleton. that has been shed. So tarantulas are arthropods, which means they have an exoskeleton for muscular support. So it's basically a stiff outer shell that houses the spider's internal organs. As they grow, they shed their old skin, leaving behind an exoskeleton that is a perfect replication of the spider, minus the head and the fangs. Usually, a molt takes more than 3 hours, but in this time lapse video, that process has been sped up to just a few seconds. During molting, the spider lies on its side to wriggle out of its old exoskeleton and slowly pulls out its legs, kind of like someone peeling off a really tight pair of jeans. Tarantulas molt several times during their lifetime until they reach full size. All tarantulas are venomous, but their venom is not deadly to humans. However, some bites can cause serious discomfort or even hallucinations, which is pretty easy to believe looking at those fangs. Tarantulas mainly eat large insects, which they ambush, grabbing them from the front legs and biting them with their fangs to inject venom and paralyze them. The biggest tarantulas, like those guys the size of the dinner plates, right? Sometimes even kill and consume small animals like lizards, mice, bats, birds, and even small snakes. All right, next we have another terrifying insect, the scorpion. Perhaps the only reason these arachnids aren't far more frightening to us is because they aren't very widespread in the US. If they were, we would probably hate them a lot more. I would. All right, and yes, they are arachnids. As Kirsten is showing us, they have 8 legs. They are the largest of the arachnid order, are related to spiders, ticks, and mites. And there are 1,500 different scorpion species classified, but there may be as many as 2,000 worldwide. Roughly 40 are found in the US. Luckily, only 25 species around the world have strong enough venom to kill a person, and just 2 of those are in our country, thankfully. Scorpions are nocturnal, solitary, and secretive, preferring to hide by day. But we can see them at night with the help of an ultraviolet light because they do fluoresce under black light. All right, Dave, can you give us a close-up? There we go. So these creepy guys are survivors, able to live in the toughest environments. When food is scarce, they can slow their metabolism, allowing them to use little oxygen, and they can live on only 1 insect a year, which is not a lot. Yeah, I'd be really hungry. Researchers have even frozen scorpions overnight. Then, after putting them in the sun the next day, they thaw out and walk away, which is really very horrifying because zombie scorpions? No, thank you. Fossil records show that scorpions have been around for about 420 million years and were much bigger. One fossil specimen measured at 3.3 feet. Yeah. Thankfully, scorpions today do not come close to that. So the emperor scorpion, one of the largest species, averages about 8 inches long. These guys are native to West Africa, but are now found worldwide because of they become a common exotic pet. Does anybody have one? Oh, good. Okay. All right, finally, let's take a look at the group of insects that are the longest in the world, the stick bugs, also known as walking sticks. There are around 3,000 different species of stick bugs. Most are between 1 and 12 inches, but the largest, discovered in China in 2014, was a whopping 24.6 inches long. No. The name comes from their appearance, as Kirsten is showing us. Resembling sticks, twigs, and leaves, they blend into their natural surroundings. They have the ability to remain motionless for hours, fooling predators into thinking they're just another stick. Sometimes they even sway gently back and forth in the wind like a breeze. So they can blend in that way as well. But when camouflage isn't enough, some stick insects use active forms of defense to handle predators. They can release an awful smelling fluid or regurgitate fluid as a deterrent, and the majority of walking sticks can even leak blood from their joints. Others can spray a defensive chemical that causes temporary blindness. So Dave has the thorny devil walking stick underneath the micro eye. Certain types of stick bugs, like the thorny devil, have spikes and thorns all over their body. This type of stick bug uses their leg spines to kick and swipe at predators repeatedly or try to pinch them with their leg spikes. But if if a walking stick does happen to get caught by the leg, they can use a special muscle that they have to break off their leg at a weak joint, shed the leg, and make their escape. Luckily, these guys can regenerate the missing limb the next time they molt. All right, so most of the time, their impressive camouflage abilities help them remain undetected by even the most serious predators. All right. So what was the best one, the creepiest of the insects? Spiders? Tarantulas? Okay. We have a tarantula vote. Scorpions? Anyone? Ah, me too. Has anybody ever found one in their shoe? Oh, in the bathroom. Okay. Yeah, that's where some of the venomous ones are. That's very unfortunate. You cut them in half? How do you do that? Do you pick them up to do that? Huh. Okay. Fun fact, you can cut them in half and kill them. There we go. All right. So now let's move from land to sea and check out some horrors of the deep. These strange-looking tubes are a type of glass sponge commonly found deep in the Pacific Ocean called the Venus flower basket. They are called glass sponges because their tissues contain structural particles made of silica. This sponge produces particles that fuse together in very complex and beautiful patterns to form a skeleton that remains intact even after the sponge dies. So while glass is normally brittle and fragile, the Venus flowers basket skeleton is tough and stable because of how it forms. So let's take a closer look at that structure that Dave has for us. So there are 3 layers of overlapping square lattice formations that make up the tube-shaped mainframe. Those lattices are reinforced by struts that run vertically, horizontally, and diagonally, with a small matrix of particles embedded throughout to bond it all together. So it's pretty beautiful, actually. But these sponges play host to a twisted kind of love story. They often house 2 small shrimp, a male and a female, inside its skeleton. The relationship between the sponge and the shrimp is symbiotic. So the shrimp clean the inside of the sponge and then in return receive food and protection. The young pair of shrimp enters the sponge when they are small, but eventually they grow too big and they can't get out. They must spend the rest of their lives trapped in this glass house together. A scary thought indeed, since divorce is not an option here, right? This shrimp love story has influenced Japanese culture. The sponge is seen as a symbol of the undying love, and sponges are given as wedding gifts. So basically, they're giving a dead animal as a wedding gift, right? That would kind of be like us giving taxidermy as gifts. Maybe something like this. Thank you. But still, I don't know about you, but I would probably appreciate something else. All right, next, we have a few examples of egg cases from the lightning whelk marine snails. And yes, sea snails do lay eggs. So maybe you've seen these coiled up masses washed up on a beach somewhere, or maybe floating around in the water. I see some heads nodding. Great. Did you wonder what the heck they were? Yes. So whelks lay their eggs in a long spiral-shaped casing that can reach up to 33 inches in length. Each strand has about 200 small pouches, and each pouch contains up to 99 eggs. That is a lot of snails. Inside each pouch is an embryonic fluid that nourishes and protects the eggs as they develop. The female protects the string of eggs by anchoring one end to the bottom of the ocean. So Dave has an egg casing that's been preserved in fluid, and we can see some of the eggs still in the pouches. Normally by late spring, the embryos have developed the earliest stages of their shell, which is called a protoconch. When they're ready to start their lives of their own, the juvenile whelks escape by punching holes in the case and crawling out all over the sea bottom. So these casings have been called mermaids' necklaces, but I don't think a necklace with tiny hundreds of little snails crawling out all over you would be really fun to wear. So they should probably stick to just the traditional shell. Yep. All right. Next up, we have this baby shark. Also known as shovelheads. I'm so sorry. The bunnethead shark is the smallest of the 10 hammerhead shark species, only growing to about 4 feet long. It has a unique head shape among the species that is smooth and rounded between the eyes. There we go. So bonnetheads are the only one of the hammerheads that eats hard-shelled invertebrates like crabs, bivalves, and snails. This is because of their tooth structure. So let's get a good shot at that, please, Kirsten. They have small, sharp teeth at the front of their jaw for grasping those soft-bodied prey, and then broad, flat, molar-like teeth at the back for crunching on those hard shells. This allows the shark to have a more, isn't he cute? This allows the shark to have a more varied diet. And additionally, they are the only known shark species who actually eat and digest plants. All right, next we have the sea squirt. So when we think of animals that play dead, either to trick predators or to catch prey, maybe we think of possums or even dogs, right? But there's no other animal on Earth that can fake death quite as dramatically as the sea squirt. Sea squirts are sac-like marine invertebrates that are found all over the world in both shallow water and the deep sea. They can be a variety of sizes and colors and have at least 1 or 2 openings for bringing in food and sending out waste. They're filter feeders that attach themselves to underwater surfaces and then siphon food matter from the surrounding water. They get their name from their tendency to squirt out water when they're removed from their home. And yes, that's an actual sea squirt, not a toy. All right, so let's see our preserved friend in fluid here. Ooh. Is anybody hungry? No? Okay. When they're threatened, these little blobs tear off their siphons and literally push their stomach and internal organs outside of their body. So basically, they disembowel themselves, shooting out their innards like a stomp-on tube of toothpaste. Most predators won't go after already dead prey, so they're tricked into leaving them alone. The sea squirts can give off the appearance of being dead for up to 5 days as they wait for danger to pass and for their organs to regenerate. Isn't that great? They already look creepy enough, but just imagine how much worse they would be after this horrifying trick. Yeah? All right. If you would direct your attention to Dave, he is holding up our next object. How many think you know what this might be? Show of hands? Anybody? No? More this way, Dave? More this way? There we go. Okay. Nobody really knows. That's okay. Let's find out. Let's find out.
This creature was found 1,800 feet deep in the ocean. It's called a basket star. This extraordinary invertebrate has a mass of twisting and turning arms that can measure 1 meter long. Each branch has tiny, sharp hooks, allowing the creature to capture prey. It feasts mainly on zooplankton. Basket stars are able to grow their limbs back if they are broken or chopped off by predators. An ability as freakish as it is amazing.
So as our scary narrator guy told us, the basket star is related to those brittle stars and is an echinoderm. They're found in oceans worldwide, from the deep Arctic to warm, shallow reefs. Scientists estimate there are about 175 different species, varying in color from red to pink to black, but many live hundreds of feet deep, so we actually don't know how many there are. So echinoderms have a 5-pointed disc-shaped body and then 5 arms, but the basket star is a little bit special because it has arms that branch and then sub-branch. That way, they can anchor themselves to the seafloor in a spot with a strong current and then form a basket with their arms from where it gets its name, and they're able to catch food that way. So small jellyfish, crustaceans, shellfish, other critters that float with the current flow right into that basket. And then those barbs on their arms trap their prey, and the basket star will then encase them in threads of mucus and pull them down to their mouth. This is one creature you are very unlikely to see. The basket star hides during the day inside reefs, and they only emerge in the dead of night. So by the time, So there we go. Kirsten has a close-up of our friend. By the time daylight comes, the stars are gone and hidden away. If you do happen to come across one at night, as soon as you shine a light on it, it will fold itself up and compress itself into a tiny little ball and tangled mass, just like you see here. All right, isn't that fun? All right, so next up, we're going to talk about some human-made nightmares. Some things we've made. It's exciting. So no one knew what the basket star was, huh? That one fooled you? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Yes, it is dead. All of these are dead. I don't care for live animals, just dead ones. So what was your favorite? Did anybody like the basket star? Yeah? Good. It was the creepy narrator guy, wasn't it? Yeah, that was my favorite too. But what about the sea squirt? Yes, that one is disgusting to look at. All right, so let's leave these creepy things found in nature behind and turn our attention to some human-made objects that could be the stuff of nightmares. All right. Gigaku is a genre of religious dance drama performed for the Japanese royal court from the 7th to the 10th centuries. The plays were performed outside, so the characters wore masks with greatly exaggerated features so they could be seen from a distance. The masks covered the entire head, and there were no movable parts. Gigaku masks are the first known masks used in Japan and among the world's oldest masks in existence. So Kirsten has a close-up. This is our friend Conron. Isn't he cute? Half man, half beast character. He's described as barbaric and lecherous. He's a demonic arch-villain who represents greed and other low human qualities. Even though he has the appearance of a savage demon, his role is interpreted in a more comical way. So he's really meant to make the audience laugh, which is good because that's really frightening sometimes. Can you imagine coming across that at night? No. All right, so in the 10th century, Bugaku replaced Gigaku as the most popular form of theater, performed exclusively at the imperial court for over 1,200 years. You can actually still see this dance. Bugaku is a series of traditional Japanese dance with a highly stylized form and measured choreographic style. So Bugaku projects characters through the dance, intricate costumes, and these very stylized masks. Several of the masks are modeled with comical or smiling expressions. They're meant to show playfulness and fun and joy. This is an example of a comical character, as you can probably guess. His name is Shintoriso, the clown, with his smiling face and rosy cheeks and his crinkled little eyes. Isn't he great? 4 or 6 people perform the dance named Shintoriso after the clown character. The dancers all wear these masks and dance in unison with short rhythmical movements that emphasizes angular body lines. Okay, I will give you a warning. There will be some images that you may find disturbing, so just fair warning. All right, next up we have these tiny, tiny shoes. These are called lotus shoes. And no, they are not children's shoes. They were worn by women in China with bound feet. So Kirsten's got a closer view of those. Foot binding was practiced for over 1,000 years, from the 10th to the 20th centuries. By the 12th century, it had become a widespread practice, and not just for women in high society. Foot binding was a 2-year process of applying tight bindings to the feet of young girls aged 5 to 6, and to modify the size and the shape of the feet. Bound feet were considered a symbol of status as well as a mark of beauty, and the exquisitely crafted lotus shoes reflect that. So, a small foot in China, no different from a tiny waist in Victorian England, represented the height of female refinement. Those shoes were intricately detailed to draw attention to the small feet, and usually the more detailed the shoe, the smaller the foot. For families with marriageable daughters, foot size translated into its own form of currency and a means of achieving upward mobility. So the most desirable bride had the golden lotus, which was a 3-inch foot. It was respectable to have 4-inch feet. That was okay. It's called the silver lotus. But 5 inches or more, they were dismissed as iron lotuses, and the marriage prospects for such a girl was kind of poor. It's very sad. All right. Foot binding was experienced, perpetuated, and administered by women. First, her feet were plunged into hot water, and then her toenails clipped short. Then the feet were massaged and oiled before all the toes, except the big toes, were broken and bound flat against the sole, making a triangle shape, like that there. Next, her arch was strained as the foot was bent double. Finally, the feet were bound in place using a silk strip. Wrappings were briefly removed every 2 days to prevent blood and pus from infecting the foot. That's nice of them, right? Sometimes the excess flesh was cut away or encouraged to rot. Girls were forced to walk long distances to speed up the breaking of their arches. Over time, the wrappings became tighter and the shoes smaller as the heel and the sole were crushed together. Once a foot had been crushed and bound, the shape could not be reversed without a woman undergoing the same pain all over again. Foot binding limited mobility, as I'm sure you can imagine, and caused lifelong disabilities. In the early 19th century, it was estimated that about 8 women out of 10 had bound feet. The last shoe factory making lotus shoes didn't close until 1999. That is correct. All right. Yes, it's an awful, awful, awful practice. They finally outlawed it in China a little bit after World War II, but as you can imagine, there were still some women, and still are, who have bound feet today. Okay, now we're going to turn to a subject that blends science and the human body to produce some perfectly creepy things. I'm talking about the study of medicine. I hope you're not squeamish. All right. And again, to warn you, there will be some very disturbing images, possibly, so just so you're aware. That's what we're here for, right? The creepy. Okay. So has anybody ever seen one of those Japanese plays? They are still performed today. No one? No? Which one did you think you want to see? Gikaku? Gikaku? Yeah? Yes. Or what about Bugaku? The funny clowns. No? Okay, we're Gikaku fans. Good to know. It is practiced a little bit, not very often, but still does. All right. Here we have a selection of straitjackets for the whole family. We have 2 adult body restraints, one for mom and dad, and then we have one for the kiddo. All right, it's a family exercise. 2 are made of heavy canvas or cotton with long arms to wrap around the body and tie in the back with either leather or cloth straps. The third here in the back is a full body restraint made of heavy canvas that was used to restrain a patient during bath therapy. Yeah, maybe want to take a bath and not be able to get out, huh? The straitjacket was invented in France in the early 18th century as a way to stop people with mental disorders from hurting themselves or others. Mental health was largely a mystery until the middle of the 20th century. Doctors really didn't understand what caused mental illness or how to treat the symptoms of disorders such as schizophrenia, depression, and even anxiety. As a result, they tried a variety of different treatments that, by our modern standards, seems cruel. And the use of the straitjacket was one of those. Excuse me. So, Kirsten, if we can get a look at that print. By the 1860s, ideas on how to properly care for the mentally ill changed as well. And the number of facilities devoted to this purpose increased. Sorry about that. That was the asylum. So between 1825 and 1865, the number of asylums in the US went from 9 to 62. But doctors still didn't know what caused mental disorders. So possible causes varied from religious excitement to sunstroke to reading novels. So I would be locked up right now. Before the Civil War in the US, the mentally ill were placed in poorhouses, workhouses, or prisons when families could no longer care for them. So patients often lived with criminals and were often treated like them, locked up in cells or chained to the walls. So that print there has showed a female patient being freed from her chains. As people began to differentiate between the mentally ill and criminals, many spoke out against chaining as if they were prisoners. All right. So straitjackets were considered humane, supposedly a pain-free method of restraint, and they allowed some freedom of movement. You could walk, but they were frequently misused. So as a means of maintaining order when there was a lack of or poorly trained staff, as a way of pacifying the patients, getting them to calm down, and sometimes they were used as a form of punishment. But they did cause pain in the form of abrasions, dislocated shoulders, swelling of the arms, numbness in the hands, and they could in fact be deadly. So around the 1950s, new understandings about mental health and the development of antipsychotic drugs ended the widespread use of the straitjackets. But some institutions still use them up until the late 20th century, so not that long ago. As recently as 1994, New York State's Office of Mental Health proposed ending the use of straitjackets in mental hospitals. Why did it take until 1994? I don't know. But a 2-year investigation revealed an increase in the use of jackets in state-operated hospitals, with some restraining half of their patients at least once a month. It was also found that 4 patients died from while being restrained in unusual circumstances, which is very sad indeed. All right, now we are going to explore surgical objects. So please be aware that the following images may contain graphic content that you may find disturbing. So let's talk about surgery, specifically cataract eye surgery, because what is creepier than slicing into a human eyeball, right? In the eye, the purpose of your lens is to bend light rays that come into the eye to help you see. Your lens should be clear, but when a cataract forms, the lens becomes cloudy and it can be like looking through a foggy or dusty windshield. The eye can't focus light and things become blurry, hazy, or less colorful. So the only way to remove a cataract is through surgery. Kirsten has a look for us. Here we have 2 surgical eye kits and a selection of more modern tools used in cataract removal. The surgical kits date to the 19th century. One's from 1840 and the other one is from 1890. They include instruments like lid retractors, knives, scoops, and needles, all used in different eye surgeries. And these kits were very likely used for cataract surgery because a great deal of the procedures were performed in the 1800s. The more modern tools here on the tray are specifically for cataract surgery and date to the 1960s and 70s. So the tools didn't really change that much. There are scissors, lid forceps, knives and micro knives, a cautery, sponges, needles, and hooks. So Dave is going to provide us with a detailed look at the micro knife. Look at that little guy. Isn't he cute? And so sharp, it'll slice right into your eyeball. And that penny there is for scale. So as you can imagine, with a name like Microknife, these tools had to be very small for precision work in the eye. But this tool is really, really tiny. It's almost like somebody flicked off a fleck of metal and then stuck it on a handle. The first true cataract removal was performed in Paris in 1747. The procedure was perfected over the next 200 years, and so were the instruments used. These tools are fascinating, but this next object is special. Very, very special. So Dave's going to get set up with that. This is a 5-ounce bottle of 50 surgically removed cataracts. Dave? Oh, yum. Why is there a jar of cataracts in collections? Good question. More importantly, why would someone keep a jar of cataracts? Even better question. So while we really don't know for sure, it may have to do with who owned it. So this bottle and surgical tools belong to Dr. Robert Drews. He was an ophthalmologist in St. Louis for 40 years, as well as a teacher and board trustee at Washington University School of Medicine. He was one of the American pioneers in lens implantation during cataract extraction, performing successful implants starting in 1973. In cataract surgery today, the cloudy natural lens is removed and then replaced with a clear artificial lens. Before 1950, that was not the case. The cataract was removed, but the idea of inserting a foreign object back into the eye, like a lens, was revolutionary. Early attempts were unsuccessful and resulted in some complications. So Drews gained international recognition for his expertise in cataract surgery and lens implantation. He traveled the world teaching his advanced ophthalmic microsurgical techniques, many of which are still used today. He even invented numerous surgical instruments for this procedure. All right, so finally, our last objects tonight. These are moulages, named for the French word for molding. Moulages are casts of body parts, which have been used as teaching tools for medical students since the 19th century. The first instructors to use this process took molds of real-life cases to help demonstrate illnesses or wounds. For a plastic surgeon, casts such as these can serve as a record of results before and after surgery, or as a series of changes over multi-stage surgeries. It also helps for fabricating implants or making prosthesis. So Kirsten's got some lovely close-up pictures here. All right, these moulages we have here were made to show wounds sustained to the face and used as a guide in performing reconstructive surgery. They were made to document 3 different plastic surgery cases for patients that we simply know as Hunt, Shiloh, and McCall. The 2 sets on the bottom record pre and post-op phases of plastic surgery, so the before and the after. One looks at the severe wounds to the mouth and left eye. Yep, pretty bad. And the other, severe damage to the nose and right cheek. The set on top records multi-stage surgery, showing pre-op wounds to the nose and left cheek, and then documenting the results after 2 separate surgeries. So these moulages were created during World War II by Dr. James Barrett Brown. Brown was a St. Louis surgeon and pioneer in the field of plastic surgery. He started his career as a surgeon in 1923. So a few years later, he actually helped start the plastic surgery programs at Barnes Hospital and St. Louis Children's Hospital. He was a dedicated surgeon who developed several complicated facial reconstructive procedures, as well as skin grafting techniques. He was instrumental in training the future leaders in this newly created field of plastic surgery. During World War II, the horrible maiming effects of war, modern war, unfortunately produced many patients for plastic surgeons. As one of the foremost experts in reconstructive surgery, Dr. Brown was appointed as the senior consultant in the European Theater for Plastic and Facial Surgery in 1942. So, as such, he played a major role in setting up plastic surgery centers in England for those soldiers returning from the front. He then went back to the US and helped establish similar facilities for returning soldiers and personally directed the one set up in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. He treated thousands of soldiers, helping to improve or correct the devastating wounds that they suffered. Dr. Brown is a major reason actually why plastic surgery was recognized as a surgical specialty in the US during World War II. And so, those are our creepy collections, or at least a little bit of them. I hope that you've enjoyed seeing these lovely objects this evening. We're going to get the table set up, and then I will be happy to take your questions. Lizzie is going to come around with the microphone. This gentleman here has a question.
In reference to the cataract surgery, have you seen recently where a oral eye surgeon removed, I believe it was 26 contact lenses from the same eye?
Oh gosh, that's awful. No, I had not heard about that, but that's kind of disturbing as well. How do you not know you have 26 in your eye? Like, how do you not know you have one in your eye, right? If you get something in your eye, you kind of like, ooh, something hurts, and you try to get it out, even if it's an eyelash, right? But we're talking a freaking contact lens. Ooh. Yeah. Like, do you ever wonder, like, did I lose those? Or like, I have to keep buying more. Why is that?
I had a question about the squirting sea animal.
Yes.
So you say it takes its intestines and everything go out, then it grows new ones. It doesn't bring the old ones back in.
Nope. It regenerates them. So it'll shoot them completely out of its body, and then they're gone.
Wow.
So then it has to regenerate and grow new ones.
Wow.
Nasty.
Yes, it is.
The masks for the plays, what are those made out of?
Those two are made out of plaster Paris.
And another general question. We've gone to lots of your other ones over at the other location. Is this going to be the new format to bring them here instead of having us go there? We've always enjoyed them a lot.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, we'll see. This is something new we're testing out to see how you all like it and how it works. So if you have feedback, I would be really happy to hear it. As I said, this is new for us. So
I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Questions?
In relation to the Hercules beetle,
Yeah.
I grew up in the Congo when I was young, and we had them there where they'd get to about 8 or 9 inches across.
Yeah.
Big ones.
That is not fun. Really would not like those. I don't want to see those. I know they're harmless, but that would be really freaky to run across. Did you play with them? Oh. They are pets, so I guess that's okay. Oh, nice. Did they fight the G.I. Joes and the Beatles? Anybody else have a question? Awesome. Okay. Well, I would like to thank you all very much for coming tonight and joining us on this special tour. Please feel free to come up close to the stage and get a closer look at some of the items. I know some of them are small and a little difficult to see, but hopefully you'll be able to get a better view, and hopefully you've enjoyed this evening. So thank you very much.